love, please listen, not because my voice is loud, but because what I'm saying comes from a place that rarely speaks. It's the quiet place where certainty lives without performance, where truth exists without polish. I've spent most of my life thinking ahead, solving problems, building systems, and preparing for futures that haven't arrived yet. I trained myself to rely on logic, to question emotion, to doubt assumptions. That discipline shaped who I am, but it did not lead me to you. What brought me here was choice, not a momentary impulse or a passing feeling, but a deliberate decision made again and again. I chose you not once, but daily, even on days when it would have been easier not to choose at all. Love in its truest form isn't something that happens to us. It's something we commit to, especially when it asks more than we plan to give. I know my ambition can feel like distance. I know my focus can feel like silence. From the outside, it may look like absence. But silence does not mean I am gone, and focus does not mean I don't care. Some people love loudly. Others love quietly, deeply, and consistently. I am the latter. My love does not always announce itself, but it never leaves. I won't pretend I'm perfect. I fail. I miscalculate. I push too hard, chase too far, and sometimes forget to pause. I am human in ways I don't always show. But hear this clearly. My heart has never wandered. Even when my mind was racing, even when the world demanded more from me, you were never a distraction from my mission. You were the reason it mattered. Trust is not built through dramatic gestures or perfectly timed words. It's built through showing up, again and again, through choosing honesty over comfort and truth over ego, through understanding that strength isn't just about carrying the weight of the world alone, but having the courage to let someone see you when you're tired of holding it. In a world full of noise, endless options, and competing paths, I made one decision that simplified everything. I chose you, not for who you might become, not for who I hope to be someday, but for who we are, here and now. That choice was made in clarity, not confusion, and it is one I intend to keep. Love is often misunderstood as a sudden spark or an uncontrollable force. Emotions may introduce two people, but emotions are unstable by nature. They rise and fall with circumstances, moods, and pressure. If love were only an emotional accident, it would disappear the moment comfort fades or difficulty appears. Real love begins where impulse ends. It starts as a conscious decision, especially when emotions are unclear. Attraction is tested and life becomes demanding. Choosing love means acting with intention rather than reacting to feeling. It means staying present, respectful, and committed even when passion is quiet and patience is thin. A conscious decision in love requires awareness. You see the other person clearly, not as an idealized version, but as a real human being with flaws, fears, and limits. Instead of waiting for them to change, you choose them as they are and take responsibility for how you show up in the relationship. This kind of love requires discipline, much like building anything meaningful. It involves listening when it's uncomfortable, speaking when silence feels easier, and staying when leaving would be simpler. Emotions may motivate the beginning, but decisions sustain the journey. When love is a choice, it becomes resilient. External success, failure, distance, or distraction lose their power to break it. The bond no longer depends on constant excitement. You don't wait to feel loving in order to act lovingly. You act lovingly because you've decided this person matters. Over time, those actions reshape emotions. Trust deepens. Stability forms. Love stops being something that controls you and becomes something you build. Deliberately, with clarity, responsibility, and purpose. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness because it exposes what we usually try to protect: uncertainty, fear, doubt, and emotional need. In a world that rewards control and self-sufficiency, openness can look like risk. But true strength is not found in hiding what is real. It is found in having the courage to reveal it. Being vulnerable means admitting you don't have all the answers. It means acknowledging mistakes and expressing feelings that could be misunderstood or rejected. This does not reduce value or authority. It increases trust. People connect with authenticity, not perfection. When vulnerability is present, communication becomes real instead of strategic. Relationships shift from surface-level interaction to genuine connection. It creates a space where both people feel safe enough to be honest, and where growth becomes possible. Avoiding vulnerability may create the illusion of power, but it often leads to isolation. Emotional walls protect against pain, but they also block intimacy, understanding, and support. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Choosing vulnerability means accepting the risk of being hurt or judged and still speaking your truth. That willingness transforms vulnerability into leadership. It sets an example of courage and emotional responsibility that invites depth instead of distance. Ambition drives progress. It fuels achievement and the desire to build something meaningful. But ambition is rarely free. It demands long hours, intense focus, and relentless motion, and it often collects its cost quietly from personal relationships. Relationships are rarely lost in dramatic moments. They fade slowly when time, attention, and emotional presence are consistently redirected elsewhere. The cost of ambition is not usually intentional neglect, but sustained absence. Highly ambitious people often believe sacrifice is temporary, that once a milestone is reached, balance will return. But ambition has a way of moving the finish line. One achievement leads to another, and urgency never truly disappears. Meanwhile, relationships operate on consistency, not intention. Love and trust weaken when they are repeatedly deprioritized, even when loyalty remains. Emotional distance can grow silently, creating gaps that success alone cannot close. Ambition also reshapes identity. When self-worth becomes tied to output and results, relationships may begin to feel inefficient rather than essential. Loved ones may feel valued but not fully present, asked to be patient without being fully included. The real cost of ambition is not failure or exhaustion. It is regret that arrives too late to correct. Achievements lose depth when there is no one close enough to share them with. Success feels hollow when emotional connection has been traded for progress. Ambition builds the future, but relationships live in the present. When the present is repeatedly postponed, trust cannot be restored through promises or isolated efforts. It is built slowly through honesty and consistency over time. Honesty forms the foundation by aligning what is said with what is real. It means communicating truth even when it's uncomfortable, admitting uncertainty instead of hiding it, taking responsibility rather than offering excuses. Without honesty, trust becomes fragile. People sense the gaps between language and intention. Even small distortions create doubt, and once doubt exists, it reshapes how every future action is interpreted. Love, trust, vulnerability, and ambition are not enemies, but they must be held with awareness. When love is chosen, vulnerability is embraced, and ambition is guided rather than unchecked. Relationships don't weaken, they endure. And in that endurance, love becomes not just something you feel, but something you build, deliberately, faithfully, and with purpose. Consistency is what gives honesty its weight. A single truthful moment, no matter how sincere, cannot outweigh repeated unpredictability. Trust does not grow from isolated promises or emotional declarations. It grows when behavior remains steady across different situations, moods, and pressures. When words and actions align repeatedly, people begin to believe not just what is said, but what is lived. Reliability creates safety. When actions reflect values day after day, others feel secure because they know what to expect. Consistency does not mean perfection or never failing. It means showing up with the same integrity whether circumstances are easy or difficult. It means being recognizable in character, even when conditions change. Apologies matter, but changed behavior matters more. Words can acknowledge mistakes, but consistency repairs the damage they cause. Reliability in small, ordinary moments often carries more meaning than dramatic gestures meant to impress. Trust is built quietly, through repeated proof rather than performance. Honesty combined with consistency creates emotional security. When someone knows they will not be misled or emotionally abandoned, their defenses soften. They stop bracing for disappointment. This sense of safety allows openness to replace caution, and deeper communication to replace guarded responses. As trust grows, relationships transform. Interactions shift from defensive and uncertain to cooperative and supportive. The constant need to question motives or verify intentions fades. Energy that was once spent on doubt becomes available for growth, connection, and shared purpose. Trust is rarely broken in a single moment. It erodes slowly when honesty is delayed and consistency is compromised over time. Small inconsistencies accumulate, creating uncertainty. Rebuilding. Trust requires patience because it cannot be restored through explanations alone. Trust returns when truth is maintained even under pressure and when dependable actions continue without demanding immediate forgiveness. Over time, honesty proves itself, and consistency confirms it. Trust is not reclaimed by urgency, but by endurance. Choosing one person in a world full of distractions is an intentional act of focus. Modern life is designed to pull attention in every direction, offering constant alternatives, comparisons, and instant gratification. It quietly creates the illusion that something better is always just one click away. Social media, endless communication, and unlimited choice can weaken Commitment by encouraging people to keep options open instead of investing deeply in one connection. In this environment, choosing one person is not about limitation. It is about clarity. Clarity means valuing depth over novelty and meaning over endless possibility. It is the decision to build something lasting instead of constantly searching for something new. This choice becomes more powerful precisely because the alternatives are so visible. Distractions are not always obvious. They appear as work demands, digital noise, external validation, and the pursuit of constant stimulation. Over time, these distractions compete with presence. When attention is divided, relationships suffer not from betrayal, but from dilution. Emotional energy spreads thin when it is not fully invested. Connection weakens when it is partially inhabited. Choosing one person requires resisting the urge to constantly evaluate alternatives and instead committing to growth within the relationship that already exists. This choice carries responsibility. It means investing time, attention, and emotional effort consistently, even when routine replaces excitement. It means understanding that fulfillment comes from building something shared, not from chasing constant emotional highs. When distractions arise, staying present becomes a reaffirmation of values rather than a reaction to circumstances. Choosing one person does not eliminate curiosity or external attraction, but it places boundaries around behavior and attention. Loyalty becomes visible through action, not just intention. Over time, this focus strengthens trust and deepens connection. In a culture that celebrates endless options, choosing one person becomes an act of discipline and respect. It transforms love from something temporary into something deliberate. Love is often reduced to a feeling, intense, emotional, and powerful at the beginning, yet naturally unstable over time. Feelings rise and fall with stress, distance, success, and failure. On their own, they are unreliable foundations for something meant to last. Viewing love as a long-term mission changes everything. A mission requires direction, patience, and endurance. It demands commitment beyond motivation, especially when excitement fades and effort becomes necessary. A long-term approach to love prioritizes progress over perfection. Like any meaningful mission, love encounters misunderstandings, conflict, and change. These moments are not signs of failure. They are signs of depth. When love is treated as a mission, challenges are met with problem-solving instead of avoidance. The goal shifts from maintaining constant happiness to creating stability, trust, and shared growth over time. This perspective changes how effort is measured. Small, consistent actions become more important than dramatic expressions. Listening, adjusting behavior, showing up, and protecting the relationship during difficult phases become part of the mission's discipline. Instead of asking how love feels in a moment, the question becomes whether actions align with long-term commitment. Love becomes something practiced, not just experienced. Seeing love as a mission also means accepting that both people will evolve. Growth is not a threat. It is an expectation. Supporting each other's development while staying aligned requires patience, flexibility, and respect. Emotional intensity may rise and fall, but purpose keeps the connection grounded. When love is guided by intention rather than impulse, it gains resilience. It becomes capable of carrying responsibility and surviving uncertainty. Love, when understood deeply, is not an accident, a weakness, or a fleeting emotion. It is a series of deliberate choices made with clarity and responsibility. It requires the courage to be vulnerable and the discipline to remain honest and consistent. It also requires awareness of the quiet sacrifices ambition can demand from the people closest to us. In a world overflowing with distractions, love asks for focus, the willingness to choose one person fully, not halfway, not conditionally, but with intention. When love is treated as a long-term mission rather than a temporary feeling, it gains strength, direction, and purpose. It becomes something that can grow under pressure, survive change, and deepen with time. This kind of love is not loud, but it is steady, not perfect, but resilient. Not driven by emotion alone, but guided by commitment, trust, and shared growth. Good luck to those who choose love with awareness and courage, to those who stay present when it is difficult and remain committed when it is inconvenient. Thank you for listening with an open heart and allowing these words to reflect your own journey.